What's up guys? Today we're going to be doing our rooftop fan installation, and here are the items you're going to need to complete this task. We have our two MaxxAir fans, self-leveling sealant, a caulk gun, painter's plastic, a drill, a screw gun, butyl tape, the jigsaw with metal blades, a square, painter's tape, screwdriver, box cutter, tape measure, marker, pencil, and another square just in case. And last but definitely not least, a ladder. Alright, so first things first, you have to determine where your fan or fans are going to go. We decided to put ours right here in the front next to our shower area. And then we're going to also put another one in the back right above our bed. And we decided to put them as far apart as possible. That way we had adequate room on the roof for our solar system. Once you determine the location of the fans, you'll need to make a template. We're making ours out of cardboard. The instructions say to make a 14 by 14 template. We have our template in where we want the front unit to go. We're going to trace it out, mark the edges, put some painter's tape down so we don't scratch the remainder of the paint, and then start cutting. We went ahead and put this plastic up to catch any metal shavings that drop down from the roof when we're cutting. We learned that the hard way with the windows. Now for the moment of truth. Oh yeah, first time. Jelaine's touching up the bare metal with some primer so it doesn't rust. And then we'll finally be able to place the fans. I just put a hole through the center of the template, and I will transfer that up to the roof and start cutting. We transfer the template up to the roof, going to mark it out, tape everything off, and then cut it out. Everything's marked out. We have our pilot hole in, and we are ready to cut out the second fan hole. Look at that, 2 for 2. We'll take it. We made these 2 wooden frames, and they'll just serve basically as another furring strip on the ceiling. We made them the same depth as those, so that way we can just attach our ceiling straight to the frame, and we won't actually be using the large white plastic part that came with the fans. The paint has dried and we are ready to set these fans in. We have the first flange in, put the self-leveling adhesive on. We are good to go. This back one's going to be a little bit trickier than the front. The mounting surface, as you can see, isn't level, so we'll have to pack that out with butyl tape, and then everything else should be pretty much the same as the other one. Packed up the low spots, and we'll put butyl tape on the bottom of the flange. The butyl tape is on. Just peel this little back strip off, and then we'll flip it over, fasten it down. It's dark. We're still not done. Alright, everything's in, hooked up and ready to go. Note to self, don't start at 12 p.m., especially when it gets dark at 5. Alright guys, first thing you want to do before you drop the fan in is pull this wire cluster out. Just kind of let it dangle. That way you actually have access to it in the bottom. If not, it can get stuck in this area. Trust me, we just did that. But yeah, you just do that and then you drop the fan in. And then you run a screw in this hole, and there's matching screw holes on the opposing side. So 4 screws and you're done. Also, you have to crank your fan up to this position so you have access to these screw holes. So this is what it looks like from the inside. We build this little pack out to match our furring depth. That way we can run our ceiling straight across into this. We have our wires hanging down. That way we can tie them in to the DC power on the inside. And that's pretty much it. It's that time again, folks. Time for our tips, tricks, mistakes, and costs. I would say one of the most important things to do is to use this self-leveling lap sealant. Once it goes on, it just self-levels and spreads out all over the place and really seals in the vent shroud really well. So that's definitely something you should do. Another note on that is it is super messy and kind of a pain to clean up. I think we still have lap sealant on our van roof somewhere.
Another way to make sure you clean everything up and everything's good is make sure that you aren't installing your fans when it's dark outside like we did. We didn't allow for enough time, daylight time, to install both the fans. So just make sure you are allowing plenty of time to install, unless you're fortunate enough to be in a garage with lights and, you know, out of the weather. That would be ideal. So make sure whenever you are cutting the holes in the fan, you do clean all the metal shavings. So we put a plastic, made like a little bubble for the inside of the van, which worked really great. But on the outside of the van, there's shards everywhere, and you really need to clean those up to prevent any kind of rusting.
As you're setting the fan in, be sure you pull the wires out of the side of the fan. They just have them like tucked in there for shipping purposes. Pull those out and drop them down into the interior of the van before you install it, because that will save you some time from pulling the fan back out to do that later. Or if you're lucky like we were, I think we just jammed like a little screwdriver up in there and popped it out. So it wasn't too terrible, but it will save a little bit of headache if you do that beforehand. On the ProMasters, there's a designated area for fans on like the front of the roof. And what it is just kind of like a completely flat piece of metal that makes it easy to mount up. But if you are to put a fan anywhere else like we did, and that we put ours in the back, but anywhere else on the entire roof, there are all these like little ridges like this that we had to pack out with butyl tape. They do make an adapter for that, so you would only have to put one run of butyl tape all the way around and then put the adapter on and attach the fan to that. If we were to do it again, we would probably do that, but we didn't feel like ordering one and waiting on it to get here. Ours is sealed up perfectly fine and has not leaked yet, so I think the way that we did it was just fine, but I do believe an adapter would be easier and it may give you a little bit of peace of mind.
When you're thinking about the placement of the fans, make sure you're not only thinking about the 14 by 14 hole that goes actually into the van and what it's gonna look like on the interior, but make sure you're thinking about the top of the van, because with ours, we were just really focused on, you know, the placement of the fan inside of the van. That's really hard to say. You should try it. Say it real quick, 3 times fast. Anyways, so when we were thinking about that, we didn't think about the top at all, because when we placed it in, if the hole would have been a couple inches back, then our fan would have actually hung off the back of the van. So just make sure you're thinking about the placement of the fan on the top of the van.
That's also important if you're installing a fan after you have a roof rack already in, because like she did say, the actual fan unit itself does stick out further than the hole does, so you could be getting into your roof rack or anything else that may be on top. So just something to consider.
One of the mistakes I did, I wore some hiking pants that were super slick. So when we were actually installing them, I was on the roof and my foot was off of the ladder, and we were installing the front fan, and somehow my weight shifted and I slipped off the entire top of the van. I slipped off the van, and I was able to catch myself and like swing myself into the actual sliding door because it was open, thankfully. Otherwise I would have been on the ground, or if it was in any other location or anything else could have happened. I mean, the outcome could have been way worse. So make sure you are wearing something that's not super slick and are, I guess, cognizant of that.
And you're holding on tight.
The total cost of the 2 fans, the sealant, the butyl tape, the metal blades on the jigsaw were a total of $625.48.
Thanks so much for joining us in today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.